right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. As always, I am absolutely thrilled that you are here. If you've never checked us out before, we are primarily an interview and a commentary-based podcast. Today, we have an interview for you. On the line with me is Adrian Griffin. Adrian, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Billy. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Adrian has been a working actor in Toronto for over 30 years, theater, film, and television. You're one of those guys, I bet. A lot of people say, I know you from somewhere, but they can't quite pin it. Do you get that a lot?
Yeah, that's kind of my MO. Yeah, I know you. Where do I know you from? And then I go, yeah, I've been on the TV.
Yeah.
You've probably seen me, but you really have paid no attention to that.
There's a lot to be said for that, though, because a character actor doesn't have the problem of being typecast so much. You can play anything. Like I saw you in a clip from The Handmaid's Tale.
Oh yes, yeah,
yeah, and you played a creep in that, right?
I did play a creep in that.
Okay. But on the other hand, you can turn around and take a humor role or something, and nobody really. So as an actor, you're wide open. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, that is everything I've ever wanted in my career, to be wide open to everything as opposed to only able to do one very narrow interpretation of something, right? I mean, that's the goal, is to experience as much as possible. At least it was for me. That's always why I wanted to be an actor, why I always wanted to experience as much as possible and not be limited.
Yeah. Well, that's great. We have a lot of people that listen that really like the creative process, acting, writing, and all these things. So you're an interesting guy because you got all kinds of credits here. Theater credits all over the place. Now you created two theater companies, On a Wing and a Prayer, and The Company, and you produced and acted in 6 plays. And like I said, lots of film and television. And you have your debut novel, and it is called The Ward. So with this long history of acting and theater, why the writing all of a sudden? That seems like for you, it's right in your wheelhouse. But this is fairly a recent thing for you. It's something this is your debut novel. How did that come about?
Well, I've always written. I've written some screenplays. I've written a play. I've written. I actually wrote a novel before this.
Okay.
But it was absolute crap. And never saw the light of day and never shall see the light of day. I believe I was wise enough to definitely 86 that and go, but I knew that this book had legs for sure. But I've always written. I've written some short films, and I've written some stuff for the internet, like web series stuff as well. And I've always been in that mode of writing. When you're on a show, say at a theater festival for 9 months, there's a lot of downtime after you finish rehearsing, and you need something to fill that time with. That's creative as well as, I mean, you can go to the bar every night and you can do all those sort of fun things, and they are fun things, but I mean, you do really, after a stretch of time, really need to figure out what you want to do in your creative life, because there is a lot of downtime. There is a lot of time where you're not working as an actor, particularly. Sure. And you can create a lot of bad habits. And I've always wanted to at least, know that I've been trying to be in a creative space so that it would feed into my acting, not just be waiting around by the phone hoping that somebody would call me. That's why I created theater companies. That's why I created so many other things that I've done.
Yeah. I really admire the craft. I've attempted some acting. I did do stand up for a while.
Oh yeah.
But just watching your clips, there's a difference between watching somebody pretend to act like you see in a lot of YouTube videos and things, and then there's another thing seeing you like in the clip that I saw. There was a couple of them, and I'm going to talk about them because it seems like
you were
you
on
do
my
very.
IMDb page, were you?
Yes, I did. I did check it out.
Yeah.
And if I remember the scene correctly, in A Handmaid's Tale, it seemed like you were slightly inebriated when you had the interaction on screen.
I
And
was.
and there's a technique to that, like relaxing your spine and all these other things. And it looked like somebody who really had ill intentions after they've had a few drinks. I mean, and there's
It's true.
can you turn that on instantly? And how much of that is what you want to do as an actor, and how much are you told to do by direction? I mean, or is it a little both?
That was me. It was actually really a beautiful day. The director, Kate, I can't remember her last name. It's terrible with me. I remember her first name. She was New Zealand, from New Zealand, director. And it started actually when I auditioned. I had done that particular motivation going into the audition. And Kate came up to me and she said, "Your screen test was dead on." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm going to do that." And then, I got to work with Elizabeth Mawson, and she was up for everything. I didn't tell her, but then I sort of ran my hand down her naked shoulder and just got right in there. And I said, the hell with it. I just better be as creepy as I possibly can. To make this believable. What would I do if I was this person in a brothel, thinking that she's a working girl and she's a piece of property? So what would I do? How would I do that? Well, I would feel the property. I would go in and I would get in her space and treat her like something that was owed to me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's sort of where that comes from. And the casting and the director liked what I was doing. If she didn't, she would tell me and we would go in another direction. But I was lucky enough that I had given them something to work with, I believe, I think it's a lovely scene. Lovely scene. I mean,
from a creative standpoint, it's right on. It's spot on. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Your book is The Ward, and I guess I'll call it a period piece because it happens right the first year of the 20th century.
Yeah.
I've noticed also some of your acting credits, you seem to play courtroom scenes and all these other types of things, kind of from...
That's an age thing. If I gave you some of my reels from when I was younger, they were a little different.
Okay.
But as you age into certain things, you age into different roles, and a lot of them tend to be attorneys and judges and businessmen of a certain age and upper mobility.
Sure. And that's I don't know what I would play. I could probably play an old scoundrel of some kind. That's kind of the look I have.
Well, those are fun. Those are the most fun, scoundrels and rogues. Yeah.
That's what they always say. Now, it is a period piece, like I said. This is in the first year of the 20th century, and just to give the audience a snippet of this is kind of a murder mystery. And after an 11-year hiatus, England's notorious Jack the Ripper has not only resurfaced, but he seems to be stalking Toronto's area, and it's a place called St. John's Ward, simply known as the Ward, hence the title.
Correct.
So yeah, it's kind of like a period piece. There's something about, like that same time frame, roughly, like Sherlock Holmes and all that. That seems to be a very popular time period for these types of things. Is there a reason why that is? Is it just very, in terms of how you can paint things? There just seems to be a certain allure to that time period.
Absolutely, and well, it's what in research and researching that time period, and going into the murders in Whitechapel and the police of that time, is that, and also the press. The press was huge in this. Is that all of a sudden, because before this, actually, sorry if I can go back, is that there weren't really sort of detective agencies or a detective part of the squad.
Okay.
The constabulary of the time was more like a neighborhood watch, particularly in Toronto, particularly in England still, and probably even in the United States, is that they were a sort of loosely knit constabulary, more like a neighborhood watch, more like a sort of, part of the BIA, Business Association. And what happens after or during the time of Jack the Ripper in Whitechapel is that the detective is born. And is serialized in the newspapers. So not only the criminal, but the detectives become stars. They become celebrities. So there's a sort of cascading effect in Canada and the United States, where they start having detective squads that are separate from the day-to-day constabulary. So this I found extraordinarily fascinating. I was like, oh wow, these guys are stars, right?
Yeah.
So and then it's also when you have Conan Doyle, Agatha Christie, all these writers start picking up on the hipness of these detectives, which I mean, and it completely fascinated the imagination, and particularly latter Victorian era England, and of course America and Canada.
Yeah. During that time period, I mean, there's like Lizzie Borden, there's all that stuff right in that thing that had just thoroughly captured the imagination of people all across the world.
Oh, completely. And it's the press. It is, it's early stardom.
Yes.
Celebrity.
Yeah, but it was the early, what do they call it now? Sensationalized media, or tabloid media. We have that. We've had it in the past, like with the murder down in Aruba with the young girl down there, and that was just so it's something that has always been a part of, I guess, media culture. So yeah, that's very interesting.
Sells papers.
It sells papers, and nowadays sells clicks. Yes, it sure does.
It's the same thing.
It's exactly the same thing.
And in my book, I have a journalist. I have, for the Toronto Star. I've tried to mix all those things together: the stardom, the celebrity, the media, and my detective actually uses the media to get things that he wants as well. So I try to turn that not turn it on its head, but use it in part of the solving of the crime.
Okay, if you were to play the detective, what would be your approach? What would what is it they say? What would be the essence of your character?
Well, trying not to give too much away.
Sure.
I mean, the thing about this is one of those things that I absolutely adore about this sort of genre and era of detectives and hard scrabbled kind of living, is that my detective also is, fighting alcoholism, fighting a bad, a love affair that has long since gone, and he's trying to get over, and he is in a state of disillusion. And so I really, because I've always loved that sort of genre, in the Dashiell Hammett, Maltese Falcon style of detective, they're damaged, they're going through something. The thing that powers or drives my detective is that is love, or the loss of love. And that disillusionment with the world. And that is really where I would start as an actor. I would start with that. What is the thing that motivates him to get up in the morning? What is the thing that he's trying to accomplish, to do?
Yeah. Interesting. Now, when it comes to constructing a story, I've had writers tell me that a lot of times they have this idea, like, wouldn't it be really cool if the climax of the story had this, this, and this, and man, this would be really exciting. Now they have to create the backstory to accomplish that.
Yes.
I've had other writers tell me that writing the book was essentially they were part of the audience because they didn't know where they were going to go with it. How did that work for you?
I think a little from column A and a little from column B there. Like it really was. I had this idea. Well, to go back, the Jack the Ripper in Toronto was actually from PBS, or I believe, or some documentary that was on, and the not conclusion, but a little, supposition was that, he, because nobody knows who he was or where he ended up, some of it was thought that he fled to Canada. And I was like, "Ooh, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of neat. What if he ended up here?" And then at the same time, I was reading about the ward, funny enough, and this very, very melting pot, impoverished area, which is very much like the Whitechapel area in England. High prostitution, alcohol, you name it. It was the area was this melting pot of criminals, and but also the destitute and poor, and every race and color that was in Canada at that time. So it was an interesting place, I thought, to put Jack the Ripper again.
Yeah.
That, well, why wouldn't he go back to a place that was similar to, and where he would have an anonymity of, and could just blend in. That was sort of the genesis of the thought of the process. Then I just started writing, and then I was like, "Yep, I don't know where this is gonna go."
Yeah,
and I just sort of followed my nose.
Interesting.
That's why it was, a little from column A, a little from column B.
Yeah.
That it was sort of improvisational, to use an acting term, is that things would happen and I would just respond to them, and respond to what the characters were giving me, and then I would create new characters, and then it would bog down, and then I'd say, "Oh, okay, I really, really have to think about making a timeline here," and especially as a crime novel, then you go, "Oh, there are some really specific points that you have to hit, timelines, time of day, who's where, when, and you've really you got to have your information nailed down.
Yeah.
So then I would go back and I would research things, and I go ahead, and it was a real sort of combination of letting my imagination fly and then going, oh, I can't really say that or do that because of restrictions.
Yeah. I understand that, because a lot of people can't understand how the story can just kind of write itself. I can. I don't have the writing experience that you do, but there's been a lot of times when I've written just short things, an editorial for it, and in the process of researching what I'm writing about, I kind of change my mind about it. It kind of goes on in a different way. And
that's
musicians,
the exciting thing.
Yeah. Musicians will get a riff and just build on it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think that's the exciting thing about, any artistic endeavor is starting it and not knowing where it's going to go, and that you are working improvisationally with inside, the structure that you've built, or any structure, whether it be a film set or be a theater or writing, that you present something and you see where it goes, and you can make adjustments, and if you can be open to it, if you can be open to that you are going to get some information back, then you can really make something of it, as opposed to being just by the rote straight, because that's never interested me. That's never, like, in my acting or any aspect of my life, is I like to see what happens.
Yeah.
I like to see. I like to be surprised. I don't want to know.
Right, sure.
At some points you do. I mean, there are things that you have to know.
Yeah.
But a lot of things you can leave open to experimentation and see what happens.
Yes. Interesting. Yeah. We're talking to Adrian Griffin. The book is called The Ward. Let me pop back to acting just one more. I hope I'm saying this correctly. Is it the Meisner Technique?
Correct.
Okay.
Sanford Meisner. I studied with him. Partly with him, but at the Neighborhood Playhouse in New York. In the 1980s.
Okay. Here again, an interesting aspect of your creativity that I know people like to hear about. This is a type of instilling acting, I guess, teaching acting, and it has to do with the actors. One actor, more or less, is watching, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in my understanding of it, it's more of reacting than it is reading your lines. Is that correct? I'll let you. You're the professional.
You're absolutely in the ballpark.
Okay.
Sanford Meisner believed that actors had two major problems.
Okay.
One, they don't know how to listen, and two, that they're self-conscious.
Okay.
And self-consciousness is sort of the death of acting, because we're watching ourselves, we're watching what we're doing, or watching what we're saying, or we're concentrating on the wrong things. Like trying to memorize lines or doing things correctly or properly. Whereas Sanford Meisner was based in behavior, that if you could teach an actor to lose the self-consciousness and to truly listen, true behavior would evolve, and true creativity would evolve. And how he did this was he built a technique which was based in a game that he calls repetition. And repetition is that you will say something as simple as, is that a blue shirt that you're wearing? I can't see really on this. Or black. And I would say blue shirt, and you would say back to me, blue shirt. And we would repeat that back and forth. And what would happen is that real behavior would start to bubble up if we truly listened, as opposed to doing it mechanically. And that simple exercise evolves into, I like your blue shirt, and you would say, you like my blue shirt. And then you would have a feeling about it. You would have a point of view about how you felt about that blue shirt. And what that teaches us is how to listen, because he cleverly basically removed language by repeating back to your partner the same thing truthfully without trying to act it, just truthfully respond.
Mm-hmm.
That real behavior would start to evolve. And then you
Okay.
would then you start to learn how to read that behavior, in which I would say, you're listening to me. I'm listening to you. Yes, I'm listening to you. And then you would say, well, I hate you listening to me. Or how, so you would have a feeling about that. So it evolves into a very sort of truthful way of responding to the person as opposed to what they're saying to you.
Yes.
Because I could say, I hate that you're listening to me. And then you could say, oh, you're embarrassed by that. Yes, I'm embarrassed by that, as opposed to you're being angry. However it may go, there are many permutations and combinations of how it would go, but it would go basically from the person's behavior, not from what they're telling you. Because a person can say, I love you. And you go, yeah, well, you just told me to fuck off. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
That's fine.
Yeah. But it belies, what you're saying, but the behavior is one thing as opposed to what the person is actually, verbally saying to you. And then it evolves into something that he calls independent activities. Everything is based on taking the attention off of the actor and giving them something to focus on so that they're not focusing on themselves.
Yeah. I was only going to say that a lot of times when people hear these things and they're not that familiar with the creative process and acting and everything, they think, but is this all does this really mean? But I'll tell you what, a good way to describe it is a lot of times we watch good actors so often that it seems natural, it seems easy. But if you ever surf late at night on cable TV and you look at some of these made for cable TV programs, and I'm not saying anything disparaging about them, but it's almost like there's two people taking turns reciting the lines.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what did you do today? Oh, I went down to the store. Oh, and then what did you do? And it's that it when you actually watch people that have gone through the processes you have done, and especially when you do something more intricate like drama or actually even comedy, they say is harder.
It is harder.
Yeah, having an improvised conversation was seemingly, but it was written. Having a seemingly improvised conversation where somebody makes the other person laugh, that's very hard to do. So I have a real respect for that. In that same category of things, I'll ask you one more acting question. I hear this all the time. I got to get back to the theater.
Yes.
Yes. What is it about the theater that brings actors back? And it seems like the really serious ones have got to get back on stage to get that mojo back. What is it about the theater?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. I don't think it's just one thing. I think it's immediacy, that you are doing it in the moment. There is no cut. You have to live fully, and I think that's for me. I know it's truly the living fully. Once you're on and you are doing the thing, that you have to live it out. You have to completely engage in the life that you're living truthfully, and figure out where you're going in the moment. And things happen differently every night, and it's exciting. It's an adrenaline rush. It's you face fears. There are so many things for each actor can be completely different in their reason for wanting to go back to the theater. And I think a lot of the time as well is that plays, depending on the plays that you're doing, are really, really well written. and some of the film and television stuff that you have to do is not.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's not as immediate. They're not all gems,
Yeah.
and you don't always get to do the Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
And those are actually fewer and far between than, say, really, really good plays, depending on the production company that you're working with or the theater company that you're working with.
Yeah. Sure.
And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I love all the work.
Sure.
I love
I
all the
understand.
But there are levels. Getting to do Shaw or Shakespeare or Tennessee Williams or even Clifford Odets. Those are playwrights that are incredible to work on their language and to work as an actor to figure out how to play said person. It
Yeah.
is it's a joy as well as an honor to do those plays.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of different things that are mixed in that. I want to go back to the theater kind of. I want to go back to the theater. But it's a hard gig. It's a hard life.
Yeah.
And film and television pays more,
Yeah.
and theater is a grind. I admire my friends and persons I know who are still sticking it out and doing that thing.
Yeah.
For me, 11 years ago, it was no longer a thing that I could continue to do for
Yeah.
many reasons, for a bunch of reasons. But given the right opportunity, I would love to go back to the theater.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think there's, not it's just like with what I do, not every podcast episode is going to unlock secrets of the universe, and nor should it. I think
absolutely, yeah.
I think there's times when people just want to relax and watch a lighthearted show, and a lot of times the TV shows are going for that moment where they create an awkward moment or they create a funny moment, and that's the achievement right there. Whereas something like you're talking about with some of those more complex stories, that's something that I can also appreciate. And there's times when you want to delve into that, give you insights into history or how people behave. Those types of grandeur are okay too. I think they both can coexist. We can enjoy both.
Absolutely, there's a lot of art. There is a lot of artistry in both. There, I mean, you cannot take the artistry out of the simplest sitcom. Or there are a lot of extraordinarily talented human beings all over the place in that, from the from the makeup people to the hair people to the carps to everybody who is creating whatever event is going to happen. They're extraordinarily talented and capable human beings doing that thing at that time, no matter what it is. It's not without its complexities and its beauty and its artistry. It's not one or the other. They are, it's apples and oranges. And yes, they both have their place. They absolutely both have their place. If people are creating something, if people are creating art in whatever form, it is all valid to me. I believe it's all something which is noble.
Yeah. And it's kind of hard to define. It's one of those things they say about rock and roll. It's hard to define, but you know it when you hear it, right?
Yep, absolutely.
The book is called The Ward, and the author, Adrian Griffin. Where can people find the book? And this is from Elite Lizard Publishing. Where can go ahead?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, you can go to the publisher's website, the Elite Lizard. Elizabeth Campbell, she's a great person, and I thank the universe that she came into my world and liked what I was writing.
Awesome.
So you can either go to the Elite Lizard website, but on Amazon there is a Canadian link, there's a US link, and there's a UK link. For just punch it in, The Ward, a crime novel, and it will come up. Barnes and Noble has it on their website as well. There's a few other websites that it's on. I should probably know that. But mostly people are ordering it either through Amazon or the Elite Lizard.
Okay. Where can people find you online? Are you on social media? Do you do that? Or
I am. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, and as you found out, I'm on IMDb. You can see all my film credits on there.
Awesome. Well, I got to tell you, I always really enjoy talking to accomplished creative types like yourselves, people who take it seriously. I always get a charge out of seeing that creative spark in somebody, and you've got that. And I'm wishing you that you're going to have to tell us. First of all, you're going to have to come back at some point because I enjoyed having you.
I would love that.
Yes. The book is called The Ward. I have no doubt that it's awesome. It's in a great time period. You know, it's the genre of mystery and murder, and everybody. It's got all the components. Again, the author's name is Adrian Griffin. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Sure. My name is Billy Dees. You can find me on the former Twitter, now known as X, at Billy Dees. That's kind of like my social media home. There's all kind of links right in my profile. You can find the podcast, the Billy Dees podcast, pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. And I'm on most major social media. If you just Google Billy Dees, I come right up. Thank you very much for listening to our program today. I really appreciate it. And we will talk to you again next week.